Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. It is one of the hottest days we've had in ages, and what have I decided to do today? Sit in my car with the doors and windows shut for an hour. But, commitment to this podcast. Today I wanted to talk about independence, becoming more independent. This is an episode I've wanted to do for ages. I just haven't for some fucking reason. Great story, Brooke. I just thought this week, that's what I fancy talking about. Becoming more independent, becoming more confident in yourself, whether that's, building confidence to go out and do things by yourself, or it's just feeling more comfortable in yourself and like you don't feel the need to rely on other people. You just feel more like an independent individual in your soul. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's that or like being able to go out for a coffee by yourself or go to the beach by yourself. I just think the whole thing is very important. I think one of the best choices that I ever made was when I was like 17, when I was like in college, and I would have like a free period in the middle of the day where I had no class, and I just started like dabbling in becoming a little bit more independent. And, instead of just sitting and waiting at college, I was like, why the fuck don't I just actually go do something? And I would go and take myself out for a coffee, or I'd go walk into town and just listen to a podcast. I started kind of dipping my toe in the, do I really need to wait to find someone to do something with me? Because everyone else would have classes and people started to get slightly more independent at that age. In school, like everyone is just like no one has anything they're really doing with their life other than you're in school, because that's all you can do. And people in college, when you're like 16, 17, 18, you'd start having your own kind of commitments, whether that's a different class schedule or, you would have your own like study session. You'd have your own goals and shit to do. And I think I just started to come to a place where I was like, if I want to go and do something, normally I would wait and try and find friends that wanted to go, or I just wouldn't do it. But people are starting to get busy, and if I keep doing that, I'm not going to fucking do anything fun when I want to. Do you know what I mean? So I started kind of experimenting and doing little things, like literally going to get a little iced coffee and then just walk straight back and go to my next class. But that really, even though it's very small, I am so glad that I fucking did that, because now, like for the last few years, I'm now 21. It's not been that long. Like, that's so weird. It's not been that long, really, has it? But I am now someone that, like, it would take a lot for me to feel uncomfortable going out and doing something by myself. And I think a lot of that is just exposure. I do a lot of things by myself, so I now think absolutely nothing of it. Whereas before, when that was kind of new territory, it felt physically like uncomfortable. And I think a lot of it is exposure. I'm not even necessarily today just talking about confidence going out by yourself. It's just independence, becoming more independent in general. But I think that is a big part of it. Is why did I sound so British then? That is a big part of it. Is feeling comfortable to like just entertain yourself and go out and like get shit done that you want to do, and like start curating your own life and not waiting on other people and depending on other people all the time. I think that is a big part of becoming more independent, because if you don't have that kind of skill, I guess, is it a skill? I don't know, where you can feel comfortable in yourself to actually start doing things that you want to do, I think that's kind of when your life becomes a little bit more yours. And I think when you don't have that, you just are constantly like relying on other people. I don't know. I just think you can only go so far with that, because I think it's one of those things where, as well, you feel this is something I've noticed when I've like gotten a little bit older. Again, I'm still like literally a baby, but is that like when you spend a lot of time kind of relying and waiting on other people and just not necessarily feeling that comfortable to, whether it is go out for a coffee by yourself or it's just pursue your own goals. Like maybe there's a certain thing you want to start studying, but you're waiting for like a friend to do it with you because you don't feel like confident enough to just start it yourself. Or whether it's like you really want to travel, but you can't find anyone that wants to go with you, and you wouldn't want to like try it alone. Obviously that's like slightly different. Like maybe don't fuck off entirely by yourself to like somewhere you've, I don't know, like be sensible. I have done an episode on solo travel actually a while ago, if you want that. It's kind of relevant to this topic, I guess. But yeah, whether it's a tiny thing, like you really want to go out for lunch but no one's free, so you just don't. Or it's a huge thing, like you really want to pursue something but you don't have the confidence to do it yourself, and so you just don't. I just think it's one of those things where like time can really pass you by, and meanwhile you think everyone else is also kind of like in that like hovering, treading water, kind of waiting around phase, but other people are like living their lives, and you, if you're not careful, I think can end up just treading water and waiting around. And I think it is easy to think like we're all just kind of like we all don't know what we're doing. It's a fact. But I think it's quite easy if you're not very independent to spend a lot of time wasting time because, sorry, there's like a helicopter. It sounds like it's like on my car right now. I'm just gonna wait a second. I'm gonna have a drink while I wait. Okay, it's still there, but it's passing. Yeah, I think it's quite easy to think like everyone else is kind of in that same position where, you know, everyone else is waiting for their friends, or like they want to have a boyfriend before they do this thing, or they want to do this. But like, it's kind of scary once you realize like people are often just getting on with their lives, and like you don't want to like stay stuck too long where you're like, oh, now I've missed, you know, that window of opportunity, you know. And I think a lot of it is having that confidence and trust in yourself. That's why I said it's not just about independence and confidence about going out and doing shit alone and not feeling like everyone's staring at you. Like that's obviously a part of it. But it's also like, for me to be independent, I think it's also about having that relationship with yourself where you trust yourself and you kind of have that like belief in yourself almost. And I know that sounds cringe as fuck, but like it gives you confidence, I think, once you start to trust yourself and your ability, and the fact that even if you don't know what the fuck you're doing at all, because like who does, again, you kind of have that like, but I'll figure it out with myself. Like I've got that relationship with myself, I trust myself, you know, things like that. And just having that belief and having, you know, setting boundaries, feeling comfortable saying no, like all of these things I feel like fall under being more independent and autonomous and kind of just coming into yourself. And again, to me, the only way to really get comfortable with like all these things I'm talking about is exposure and like giving yourself evidence. I feel like it's a mix of those two. I'll explain what I mean. Exposure, obviously, like things get more comfortable and normal the more that you just expose yourself to doing it. You know, this is like a proven form of therapy, exposure therapy, where like you just have to kind of do it. And it's one of those things where it's like you can like there are some things that can help. I was going to say you can Google like how to feel more comfortable going out for food by myself as many times as you want, but like the answer is exposure. Just you just have to go and do it. But there are some things, I guess, that can help. You know, you could bring a book or you could download a podcast so that you've got kind of like a comfort blanket of sorts with you, so that it's not just like, what the fuck do I do when I get there? Because then you're exposing yourself to it, but you're kind of easing your way in. You know, when you've got a book in your hand, you feel a little bit less judged than if you're just like staring into the distance. But, you know, that is a way that you can do it, is bring something that, you know, is going to make you feel more comfortable, or like put in AirPods. Even if you don't want to listen to anything, it just like maybe then you'd feel a little bit more comfortable at the start, because you'd think like, someone might think I'm listening to or like they might think I'm on the phone, or they might, you know, it might make you feel a little bit less daunted. Even though, when do you ever notice this kind of like, that's something to think about, is like, when would you ever fucking notice? People don't really fucking look around them. Like, people are very, I've said this in like every podcast episode probably, but people are very, by nature, like self-involved. And I don't necessarily mean that in a negative way. Like, obviously it can be negative, it definitely can, but like everyone, this is everyone is like the center of their own fucking life, and you are like your own main character in your own life, and that's why you're so worried about it. But like someone else, you're just like the background character that they don't like notice or care about a lot of the time. And I'm not talking about like your friends and family. I mean like just random like people out and about wherever you live. They're not focusing on you at all. Like, and this is again like something that you hear, it kind of goes in one ear out the other. But again, like the only way around it is just exposure. Like I said, I used to find it kind of nerve-wracking. Now I don't think anything of it at all. And that's not because I'm like some super hyper independent, really, like, it's just because I fucking do it all the time. That's literally that's what it is. And it's the same thing that anyone else could do. It's nothing really to do with your personality and like your competence. I'm someone who likes to spend a lot of time by myself. I enjoy my own company. So for me to enjoy my own company and not necessarily want to see friends like all the time, every time I want to do something, that's kind of the only option. If I want to spend some time by myself, I can either get comfortable doing some shit or I can sit at home by myself for the rest of my life. Like, that's not how I want to live my life, because life is fucking short. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's just silly. Like, you don't want to be held back by like absolute nonsense like that. It's so stupid. But me saying that, I also understand I'm not like invalidating. It is uncomfortable at the start. But I guarantee if you've gone out for coffee like 10 times, you know, the 11th time, this is a random amount, it might not take that much, it might take more, I don't know. But like the 11th time, you'll be stood in the queue and you won't be thinking, oh my God, who's in this coffee shop? Who's in front of me? What do I say? Oh my God, I'm so scared. You will just be thinking like, what coffee do I want? Do you know what I mean? Like it stops crossing your mind that it would even vaguely be weird. Because I do also think that's part of growing up, is you realize it's not weird. Everyone does stuff by themselves. You have to, because even if you're like, you've got like a family and you're married and you live like, or you live with your boyfriend or something, like, this does not mean that you're guaranteed now a person to do everything with. No matter what kind of situation you're in, how many friends you have, whether you're in a relationship or not, you will have to kind of do stuff by yourself. I think you kind of realize and notice that as you grow up, that like it's kind of not optional. You have to do shit by yourself, and you realize that everyone else also has to, and we're all just doing the same shit, and we like, it's not just you. Do you know what I mean? I think as well, like I was saying about building the self-trust and building that kind of relationship with yourself, and you feel a little bit more like powerful, almost is the word. Like, I think there's something about feeling like you lean on people and you rely on people and stuff that feels kind of, I'm not saying like you're weak, but there's something about it that feels a little bit, it feels like it's coming from a place of weakness. Whereas when you're kind of more confident in yourself and you have that kind of autonomy and you're more comfortable, it feels like you're kind of coming into your power a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I sound like I'm giving like a TED talk right now. But there is something about it that just feels a little bit more like you're taking control. Do you know what I mean? You're doing what you want with your life. You're not giving so many fucks about stupid shit. Like, you're actually like, it feels a bit more powerful. Do you know what I mean? But like I said, I think the way to build that is giving yourself evidence that you can rely on yourself and that you should feel confident in yourself, and that when you say you're going to do something, you do that thing. Rather than, I think one of the worst things that you can do for yourself is tell yourself that you're going to do something and not like pull through and do it. And obviously sometimes we're all going to do that. Like, you might be like, oh, I'm going to like eat really healthily this week, and then you just don't. Like, obviously sometimes that's human, that's going to happen. But I think making a habit out of telling yourself you're going to do something and then not doing it, and telling yourself you're going to do something and then not doing, I think it's really bad for your self-esteem and your self-trust. I think you kind of start to learn that like your promises to yourself and what you say and your word holds like nothing. And I think that affects how you trust yourself and how confident you feel in yourself. And that might sound like a bit of a stretch, but I think there's a link, to be honest, with how independent you feel and whether your words match your actions. Because I think you get into kind of a rhythm with yourself when you start choosing to do things, making plans to do things, and pulling through, and then saying you're going to do something else and doing it. And it's like, it builds almost this muscle of like, I've got this. Do you know what I mean? I can do shit. I'm proving to myself that like, if I want to do something, I make it happen, and like I can do it, and it builds confidence. And I think all of this bleeds into your independence. Because it's the same thing as like, if you then, with all the little things, that's the thing, is it's with small little promises, like, I'm going to go to bed at this time tonight. I'm going to put my phone down at this time tonight. I'm not going to have a drink tonight. Like, I'm not going to get fast food this week. Like, just little things. Obviously, they're all like, they all take discipline. None of those things are like actually easy. Otherwise, we'd all have our lives together all the time. There's small things that kind of build that muscle up. And then I think when it comes to bigger, more daunting life choices, you feel like you don't need to rely on all of these people. For example, say you wanted to go traveling. If you before like had no fucking like, you didn't believe in yourself, you had no reason to trust anything you said, you had no reason to feel like you've got your own back, then you would probably feel like you don't trust yourself to go and do that. You'd think, I don't know what I'm doing, I won't work it out, you've got no reason to feel competent doing big things. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I think when you've built that muscle up through little daily activities and things, and you've kind of built that relationship with yourself of like, I figure things out. I can work it out. I see myself have a problem and sort it out in little ways all the time. Then big opportunities come by and you feel a little bit like, this is scary, but like, I believe in myself that I could figure it out. And even if an issue arises, I believe in myself that I will figure that out. And I think when you have that kind of like friendship with yourself almost, where you're like, we'll figure it out, the same way that you would with like a friend or a boyfriend or anyone, where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but like, we've got this. You build that kind of same thing with yourself. And I think then you feel more brave because you feel like it's not like a silly leap of faith situation where you're like, fuck it, like, let's try it, but I have no idea of like what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it. You kind of feel like you're going into it with a bit of like, I have reason to believe I can do things, and that builds that independence up where you take a bit more control of your life, I think. I think another example of that is like boundaries and trusting yourself to take yourself out of situations that you feel uncomfortable in, whether it's a relationship and it's like trusting yourself that you're going to end a relationship if it's not working for you. Do you know what I mean? Like something big. Or it's like maybe you go out for dinner with your friends and you start to feel a bit anxious, or you start to feel like you really need to go home because you've got stuff to do in the morning. Trusting yourself to like speak up for yourself and say like, I need to go, or like, I'm not feeling great, I need to, like, that you'll stand up for yourself a bit and like have these boundaries and learn to say no and learn to like listen to yourself and how you feel and then vocalize it. Do you know what I mean? I think that is also, this is what I mean, that I think independence is like such a medley of things. It's feeling confident in your abilities. It's feeling like you've got your own back and you can stand up for yourself and set boundaries. It's feeling like you can go out and do things by yourself and have a nice time and enjoy your own company, and that you don't need to rely on other people. Like, I think it's just so many things. It's not just, I think people sometimes think being independent is just the being able to go out and do stuff by yourself, because I hear that sometimes, because like I said, I like to go and do things by myself. It's not everyone's preference. This is the thing. Like, some people would rather do things by like with other people. Some people are more extroverted, but they still kind of like know how to, they can go and do shit by themselves too. It might not be their preference, but they can do it. I think everyone needs to be at that kind of level, because you kind of do need to be able to function alone. Get yourself places, navigate places, like know how to fucking get a table at a restaurant. Like, you need to be able to know how to do shit by yourself. But what the fuck was my point? Yeah, my point was, just because like my preference, not every time, but like I enjoy a good balance of doing things by myself and doing stuff with like my friends and my family and my boyfriend and things like that too. I do have like friends and people that I work with and stuff being like, you're so independent, and I'm not saying this to like suck my own dick, but like people being like, I don't know how like you're so independent in this way, and I'm like, just because like I like doing stuff by myself, I could be fully not that independent. Like, there's so many other things that go into being independent. Do you know what I mean? But it is a great way to build independence. I'm just saying it's not the only factor, because I think they all tie together in the way that you wouldn't feel comfortable going out and doing stuff by yourself if you didn't have that kind of self-trust and that kind of awareness that you've got your own back, and that if you want to go home, you'll take yourself home. If you feel uncomfortable, you'll leave. Like, it's kind of a mix of everything. I think another thing, this is kind of random, but this is another thing that I find makes me feel more comfortable and more independent, is having like a smaller handful of people that I talk to daily. Like, I talk to like maybe 3 to 4 of the same people daily, whether that's messaging or spending like actual time with people. I have other friends, I have like I have other people in my life, but not that I talk to every single day. And I think for some reason, I think having a smaller amount of people that you talk to every single day gives you the space and the time to exist privately. Does that make sense? Like, to have the sanctity of like personal existence. That's fucking deep as shit. But like, I think when you're talking to people all the time and you're like glued to your phone and you're constantly like messaging on this, you're talking to people on Snapchat and you're also talking to people on Instagram and you're also talking to people and it's like ding, 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 like all over your phone. I think there's no time to have like a personal existence. Everything is public, and not public in the way of like you're a celebrity, but like everything's public in the way that like 5 people know that you're on a dog walk right now. It's on your story and all your friends know and everyone's received videos of you doing this and that. And it's just like, sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes I will sit and like, I am glued to my phone occasionally, you know, but that's just a tip from me, is that I think having like less people that you talk to every single day. Like, I have other friends that I will message throughout the week and stuff, but not every day, not even close, because I just think, again, I say this all the time, but you only have so much energy. And I think if you're diluting it by talking to like, you know, you have like a certain energy source, I feel like, when you wake up. And if you're like instantly waking up and like talking to everyone and chucking out, it's like so diluted and you feel so like, I don't know, you can then get back into bed at the end of the day and you don't really feel like you had a minute actually with yourself. You were kind of just like in autopilot the whole day. That's kind of how it makes me feel if I'm talking to like too many people. And it's usually message, because like obviously if you're at work and you're like socializing with multiple people, that's completely different. I kind of mean just messaging. I think just, it makes me feel really run down and it makes me feel like I'm run off my feet all the time and like I'm not actually present and I'm not actually in the moment with myself. And that's kind of what I mean by like, I think it affects your independence in the way of like, it's just kind of feeling a little bit more comfortable not needing to do that. I think for me, it just helps me feel a lot more independent when I put my fucking phone down. I've realized like when I put my phone down, I'm in the moment and I'm doing what I'm actually doing. Even if it's just like I've got my headphones in and I'm walking around a supermarket and I'm buying some fruit and I'm gonna, I don't know, just something fucking like mundane and boring. If I'm doing that and my phone's like in my pocket, I'm actually like having a nice time doing that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas when you're kind of texting all the way through doing everything, especially texting like 10 different people at once, I think it's just like, you can become kind of like, you use that as like a crutch where like you kind of can't fucking be with yourself because you need to be talking to like everyone and their mother at the same time. Just a tip from me, my personal experience, that makes me feel a lot worse and a lot less independent than when I'm just like getting on with my life and talking to the handful of people that, you know, I love and have something to say to on the daily. But a lot of my friends, like, I love them dearly, but like I don't have anything to say every single day, and neither do they. Like, we're just getting on with our lives, you know? I also think I will give one last like tip from me and then I'm gonna go because I'm fucking melting in here. Another thing that I've found when I think about like, what do I do now in my life that I think sustains that kind of independence, and I think it's almost like, I almost like scaffold. This is the word that I thought of to describe it, is like, I scaffold my days or like my weeks with activities where like, right, this is so hard to describe. Seeing people and socializing and doing things with other people and things that just involve other people, right, is like dotted into my week. But the basic scaffolding and outline of my days and weeks, it's like everything is kind of held together by things that are nothing to do with anyone else. Does this make any sense? My own routines and my own habits that I do at the start of my day, at the end of the day, at the start of the week, at the end of the week, just the basic like structure of my week is not dependent on other people being free or anything like that. You know, whether it is I have a sleep schedule, I plan my meals out, or like I book in my gym classes or like a yoga class, or, you know, little things like, you know, for some people it's like they put in their weekly, like they book in like with themselves almost, like hair wash day. Thursday night I'm fake tanning, I'm doing my hair. Like I actively make sure that my weeks or my days are kind of like there's things in there that are nothing to do with anyone else. Does this make sense? Like they're just things that make me feel good or that I want to do, and kind of setting up your time in a way where the basic structure of it is not dependent on other people. I think that's what I mean. Like seeing people, spending time with people, make plans with people, that's a good thing to do. I'm not saying don't do that, but don't have that be the basic scaffolding of your time, because then you're relying on other people for your entire life. I think having things in there that are just, they depend on no one else. You would do it whether people were free, whether you're in a relationship, whether like anything. It's just you're choosing to do that for yourself. You know, like I said, maybe you have an exercise regime, or you cook on weeknights and maybe you go out and see friends on weekends, or I don't know. Just having some sort of like system with yourself where, I don't know, it's almost like putting your energy into things that other people can't take away from you. Does that make sense? I've seen that as like a quote. That's kind of why I'm saying that. I don't I don't know. But like putting your energy into things that people can't take away from you, like your fitness and your cooking and your hobbies and your sleep schedule. And maybe there's certain shows that you want to watch. Maybe there's certain things you want to eat. Maybe you want to be absolutely anything that you like doing. But I think putting time and energy regularly and kind of scaffolding your time and structuring it in a way that like there's a lot of things in there that are nothing to do with anyone else, and it's just shit that you like doing, or stuff that you're working on, or hobbies that you like, and things that just like people can't affect that. No one can cancel it. No one can, like, it's just you and you. I think it's important to have a lot of stuff in your life, like the basic outline be what do you want to do, and then other people can kind of fit in and they can join it and they can like weave their way in and stuff, but it's not like they're the basic main ingredient in your life. Do you know what I mean? It's like you and your activities and hobbies and routines and shit is like, you know, the flour, the eggs, the sugar, right? And like friends and people are like the vanilla essence and the shit that like you could take it, you could leave it. It's like it makes it nicer, but like it doesn't need to be there. Making sure what the fuck am I on about? Making sure that like you're not leaning on people to the extent where they are the flour and the eggs and the sugar. Does this make like what am I talking about? I'm a very visual person and I have like random like analogies that come up and I'm like, fuck it, I'll just say it. But that's something that I do. Things like at the start of the day when I wake up and like that I make a coffee and making my breakfast and like do my hair and make, that's all stuff that is about me doing what I want to do, setting up my day. It's nothing to do with anyone else. You know, I think it's important to have little things like that dotted all the way throughout your time. Not like all my week is just up in the air and then maybe like once a month I like actually do something by myself. It's like put it all over the place. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm hot as fuck. So I'm gonna go. Oh my god, I like can't wait to like open my windows and drive and get like a breeze. But thank you for listening. I might do a part 2 to this because I feel like I could honestly talk about this forever. So expect part 2 in the next few episodes. Yeah, thank you for listening. I hope this was interesting or helpful, whatever the fuck. And I will talk to you next Tuesday.